All my heart is broken, all my senses have been stripped, all my heart is in control, but I don't wanna drift. And every time I stop and pay attention to those words, pay attention.
Alright guys, well welcome to another PressPack Sessions. I'm here with Dave Ankers and Steve Gribble from Fancy and the Drakes. How you doing, boys?
Not too bad. Cold.
You're on your second release now, which is called The Lighthouse, so I'm assuming is that based on the Smeaton's Tower kind of... Does that come from Smeaton's Tower? Is the reason you call it The Lighthouse?
It was mainly your sketch, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, so I did some artwork for the first album cover, which looks like a 4-year-old's drawn it. And then I've done loads of sketches like that, and we thought we wanted to use a different one for the next album cover, and there was a yellow image with a lighthouse on it done, which was, based on Smeaton's Tower loosely. And Dave wrote a really great track as well, called The Lighthouse, and the two kind of amalgamated together, and we thought... Yeah, but being from Plymouth and having some Plymouth imagery in our music and in our artwork is really important to us.
Were you worried about how well the second album would be received? Because I really like the first album. I think it's a really strong album. So it's always that kind of, there's that worry that it's an amalgamation of a lot of ideas, and the first album's like a big album, and then the second album kind of comes out fairly quickly after, and it's always hard to kind of keep that.
Yeah, I wasn't. I think mainly just because we both wrote a lot for our older bands. I think maybe slightly less for you, but a lot of the stuff which I was writing on an acoustic guitar, when I recorded the last rock album with you, in fact, wasn't ever going to fit in a rock band really, without it, sounding a bit too, like you're selling out almost. And I guess it was like almost a growing up thing, but I already had songs that could fit into that sort of style of music, and just being able to play a song on an acoustic guitar, somebody else just to play some nice acoustic guitar around the back of it and then do some harmonies. It was really simple.
This time round we're thinking let's record a load of stuff, but let's be really critical, or just go for the stuff that's spontaneous and we really like it. That way. So,
I was going to say, how shared is the responsibility of writing, and is it just you two guys that do the writing wholly and solely, or is there, and do you find you conflict each other sometimes, where, you might come up with a chord and then he writes melodies, or do you write the whole song yourself and then he will just provide the harmonies, and is that how it works? Or
I think it's like a cake, isn't it? We will make most of the cake, and then the other person will come along and maybe add something on the top of it, maybe add a little extra chunk to it, and then the other guys do come in and add and make it, a completed song. I guess we could play the songs as they are on the album, if you like, before the guys would even touch them. Most of the structure will probably be as it.
But when you if you play it before it gets to the band, you guys are the two writers, but how do you delegate that responsibility? Do you write all the song yourself and then you just and vice versa?
Generally,
So, and I think that's what we're very careful to do on the album, is make sure there's a mix of the two lots, if you like, to get that feeling. Because I write a load of songs, Dave writes a load of songs, we jam them, and then, like you said, we put the harmonies on. And it's very rare that we say to the other one, "Hey, I've written a harmony for this. Try this."
Because I can kind of tell, like I know Dave's style well, and I've seen you around for years, including 11 Lives Left, and so I can kind of tell who's written what song. But also, I'm well aware of the fact that you both write individually in many styles. So actually, when you mould the two of you together, you end up with a much larger cross section of styles and genres, which I think Francis and Drake's achieves that very well. Right? So I think it's time to move on to Loving the Sound, which is the record label that you've set up to put these two albums out on. What's the main motive behind that label? Was it just a vehicle to put your two albums out originally? And because I know there's a little bit of more of a backstory, or there's something in development there that you were...
I think that I can't remember, I think it might have been Rob actually who said it about West is best, and about generally when you're, I know, there's nothing wrong with it. Some people still, gravitate to London or Manchester to try and get involved in another scene. And we just felt like, it's not perfect what happens around here, but there are some amazing musicians, and there's some really good venues down in Cornwall and in Devon. And we just thought, wait a minute, why would we mess around trying to get someone else to release our music when we can just do it ourselves? And then it's little things, you get links into other sort of artistic communities. So, obviously I'm married to an artist, Steve's married to an artist, Steve's a bit of an artist himself. We met loads of artists and photographers and all these other people through that, and it sort of developed from that, didn't it? Yeah. And then, we released some music, we're able to release music, it's not I wouldn't say it's an ideal or final solution, but we are releasing music. And so we started just putting a few other people's music out, just really to get their music out there, I guess. And I guess trying to make music a bit more like, say, surfing is in Cornwall, I guess.
Well, Muse are local,
Yeah, exactly.
The other day, Timoth Boys, it's not like we don't have local artists that have transcended onto the global scale.
Oh yeah, exactly. Seth Lakeman as well is obviously amazing, and there are other artists around here I think that are just as good, if not better, than some of the artists you hear on a more national and global scale. They just don't have that. The Southwest doesn't have that sort of industry, and industry is the wrong word, but that community around the
doesn't
arts.
have the infrastructures, does it? I think that's the problem.
That's the nail on the head. So what we wanted to do with Loving the Sound was give some infrastructure, gets people together to release stuff together, because loads of us all do things on our own, and that you can only get so far with that. But by pooling resources, it's a collective. That's the idea.
Collaborative,
Collaborative collective of people that can use a banner to do something. We did some stuff for the Blue Mile over the summer. Brilliant Southwest organisation run by Conrad Humphreys, linking the environment and what people in Southwest can do to help the environment. And they got us as Loving the Sound involved to help promote what they're doing, which meant that we could call on all the musicians we knew about and say, hey, come and play, it's for charity, raises our profile but also helps a great cause. So it's about people in the Southwest coming together really.
Yeah, great.
To do something. There's loads of good stuff. I mean, next year the Great British Art Tour is coming to Plymouth, and that's a massive deal, but people in Plymouth don't know about this really yet.
I don't know about this.
And there's a real opportunity for a real amazing fringe festival type scenario to build around this, and it's a great thing for something like Loving the Sound for us to get all the musicians and artists we know to say, hey, come on, let's make something big about this and get involved. So it's about looking for opportunities for Southwest artists, musicians to come together and release music, get their art out there basically. So we want to build it this year.
What's next? Another album. Obviously you've talked about this collaborative thing, which I'm obviously slightly involved with anyway, bizarrely from an actual performing point of view, which is weird. But would you then consider signing artists on a slightly more serious, do you see that as a potential scenario? Because obviously the record label's it's a funny time for the industry in terms of signing acts, and that old school model of a record label is not really particularly,
It'll have to build organically again to that sort of thing. So what we would do is we would release things the way we're doing it, and then as more people get involved and it starts to build, then we can look at that. At the moment it's about who else wants to come in and get involved with it. And because you're producing stuff, and you produce stuff by quite a few people now, and we're all kind of releasing it together. But that'd be the dream thing.
Because this, which leads me into the, you've managed to get both of your albums onto Spotify, which is again another new business model for playing music. Not particularly profitable one, I hear.
You get your 3p in the month or whatever it is, but we've got I don't think having music available on the iTunes or Amazon is the success. I think the success is the sort of notoriety, if you like, that comes from having your music on Spotify.
I guess that leads us to the gratuitous plug, which coming from such a worthy point of view, it seems far less gratuitous for you to now state the websites and the playlists and maybe any gigs that you've got coming up as well as Francis and the Drakes would be nice to know. So this would be for January. This is the January edition of 24/7, by the way.
So website is francisandthedrakes.co.uk, and there's links on there to our Facebook as well, and you can click on Spotify from there and buy the album from iTunes and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and from us and stuff. And there's lovingthesound.co.uk, which is the sort of Loving the Sound website, which has got loads of details about obviously us, but also Albanazar and Tom Vanica and a bunch of other musicians, and also loads of artists and stuff that work locally and do their own stuff, which is wicked.
Heronporth, 15th of January at the Watering Hole.
Yeah, so
full
if you're
band.
down in Cornwall around that time, embracing the cold Cornwall, beautiful Cornwall, and we're down there then.
Which is why we're all in hats and jackets and scarves and stuff.
It's not to cover the bald.
Well, I think that just about wraps it up. Thank you very much for coming in, boys.
Cheers,
Lovely
Joe.
to catch up.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Nice to see you. Respect, loving the sound.
Nice to meet you.